over here from the first row with the brothers for page 24, exercise A. Give the Arabic.
The names of Prophet Asma'ul Anbiya.
Asma. That might be an extra. But Asma'ul Anbiya. Anbiya. If we were to put the i'rab, the first letter we're just going to assume it's asma'u, right? Because we don't know what sentence it's part of, so we're just going to assume that it's marfu, and we'll say asma'ul. But anbiya we know, because it is the mudaf ilay, right? Something is being attributed to anbiya, and therefore it will be majroor. Asma'ul anbiya'i. I'll talk about that in a second. Right, so it's majroor asma'ul anbiya'i, and let me actually rewrite that. Now the word anbiya is plural, right? The singular is nabi, right? The plural is anbiya. And one of the things that we mentioned is that if the plural ends in alif and hamza, anbiya, it's ghair munsarif, meaning that it will not take a tanween and it will not take a kasra. Right? So we will never say anbiya'un, we will say anbiya'u. And if it's majroor, we won't say anbiya'in, instead we'll say anbiya'a. We will not say anbiya'in because it does not take a kasra or a tanween. When a word is ghair munsarif, right, it is only ghair munsarif if it's an indefinite noun, if it doesn't have alif lam. But if it takes alif lam, then it is no longer ghair munsarif, and it can take a kasra. It still will not take a tanween, because there is no tanween that will ever come on a word that has alif lam. So if anbiya becomes a definite noun by having an alif lam before it, we'll say al-anbiya. If it's majroor, al-anbiya'i.
So this will be anbiya'i.
Anbiya'i. I believe I did tell you this rule before, but if I did not, then consider this to be. No, we did mention it, I believe. That's something to keep in mind, that a noun that has alif lam, even if it used to be ghair munsarif before the alif lam comes, then it will be munsarif when the alif lam comes. Also, if a noun is mudaf, then it can take kasra, even if it's ghair munsarif. Let me give you an example of that as well. This is separate from the exercises, but just so that now you have the complete understanding. How would I read this phrase? Fi masajid. Fi masajida. Right? Why masajida? So fi will make the word after it majroor. So masajid will be majroor. It is majroor. But because it is ghair munsarif, it will not take a kasra. So when it is in the majroor case, it will still have a fatha. But if that word becomes mudaf, then it will be able to take a kasra. So instead of saying fi masajid, if I say fi masajid al-Muslimin. Here I can say Masajid al-Muslimin. Yes, if it becomes mudaf and then it becomes definite in that way, or if it's mudaf to any noun, or if it has an alif lam, then it will be able to take the kasra. Of course, if it is mudaf, it still will not take a tanween, because a mudaf noun can never take a tanween. Similarly, if it has alif lam, it will not take tanween, because a noun with alif lam cannot take tanween. So there are two cases in which a word that is ghair munsarif can take a kasra. That is if it has alif lam or if it is mudaf. In both of those cases, it can take a kasra if it's majroor, but it still will not take a tanween. So if you're going to forget that, you can jot it down. غير منصرف can take a kasra if A, it's mudaf, B, if it has the alif lam. Well, no, the mudaf does not always have kasra. If the mudaf happens to be majroor, it will take a kasra. Of course, the mudaf can be, yes. For a ghair munsarif, if it's mudaf, right, then if it's mudaf and marfu', it will still take a dhamma, or whatever sign of marfu' it requires. If it's mudaf and mansoob, it will take the sign of nasb. But if it is mudaf and it happens to be majroor, like for example if it has fi in the front, then it can take a kasra. The mudaf ilay will always be majroor. In this case, al-Muslimin is majroor, but it doesn't have a kasra because the jar shows with the ya. Muslimin instead of saying Muslimun. And we'll see examples of this, and I will point out the examples in the future. So, next example, can you do it, or do you want to skip? All right, go ahead. So, the small ones of the city, and we can say awlad al-Madina T. You can say Sigharul Madinati as well. The important thing is that it will be Al-Madinati, because it will be mudaf ilayh. The small ones of the city. Awladu or Sigharu. And that first word, the mudaf, remember that its i'rab can change depending on what its individual function in the sentence is. So if you want to say that I saw the young ones of the city, then it will be Ra'aytu Sigharal Madinati, because then it will be the direct object. I saw them. It will be mansoob because it's the direct object. So that depends on what the function of the mudaf in the sentence is. Question? The mudaf is the first word. Always, whenever you have a mudaf and mudaf ilayh, the mudaf will be the first word. The word that belongs to the second word. So the small ones belong to the city. They are of the city. Mudaf. And the second word is mudaf ilayh. And that will always be the case. The first word will be mudaf, the second word will be mudaf ilayh. No, there's no exceptions to that. And the second word, which is mudaf ilayh, will always be majroor. The first word will depend on its function in the sentence. Question? You can use saghiruna, and in that case it would be saghiru. al-Madinati. That is not wrong, but it is not used commonly in Arabic. In general, the plural, if there is a broken plural, in general it will be preferred to a sound plural. So the plural of صغير is normally صغار. صغيرون can be used, but it will be an exception to the rule. There will be some reason for it to be used. Normally you will use صغار. The plural of kabir is kibar. So memorize the broken plurals, and if there is a broken plural, then usually that broken plural will be used. A mudaf ilay can also be a mudaf, and we've seen some examples. We'll see more examples coming up. Let's continue. Question? Good question. Why are we ignoring the? So for example, in the first sentence we had the names of the prophets. Why did we not say al-asma? Right? Let me write that example again. Asma al-anbiya, correct? Is this names of the prophets or is it the names of the prophets? This is the names of the prophets. There is no alif lam on the first word. But always remember, when a word is mudaf, if the mudaf ilay is definite, the mudaf will also be considered definite in Arabic even though it does not have alif lam. Because a mudaf can never have alif lam. So the difference between saying Asma'ul Anbiya and Asma'u Anbiya is this means names of prophets. This means the names of the prophets. This will be Asma'u Anbiya, names of prophets. Both will be indefinite. In this case, both will be definite. The names of the prophets. This will be al-anbiya'i. This one will have a kasra. This one will not have a kasra. Why? The one that has alif lam can take a kasra. The one that does not have alif lam will be ghair munsarif and cannot take a kasra. Both are majroor. The sign of that majroor case will differ. Let's continue. And the next sentence is the kings of the earth. That will be in Arabic. Mulukul ardi. Next one will be the adults or the big ones of the house. Kibarul Bayti. Kibarul Bayti. Next one, the sincere believers of Makkah. Go ahead. So you'll start with the noun believers. What is the word for believers? Right? Mu'minun. Right? Mu'minun. And the believers belong to what? Makkah. Makkah does not take alif lam. It's already a name. So you will not say al-Makkah. Makkah is a city name. It does not need alif lam. So you want to say the believers of Makkah. Now we have a problem here. What is the problem? Mu'minun means believers. Makkah means Makkah. When I want to say the believers of Makkah, I can't say mu'minun, I have to drop the noon. Because whenever there is an idafa, if a word has tanween, the tanween will drop. If a word has the noon in the dual form or in the plural form, that noon will drop. So mu'minun will become mu'minu Makkah. Makkah ta. Mu'minu Makkata. Why Makkata? It's ghair munsarif. So its jar will show itself with a fatha. it's in the majroor case.
In this case, even though it's definite,
Yes, because it's a name. There are certain names that will be غير منصرف even though they're definite. Right? When we say that a noun, when it becomes definite, doesn't take غير منصرف, that's slightly imprecise. It refers only to nouns that are indefinite in and of themselves. When they become definite, they will not be غير منصرف. So, place names will be غير منصرف. So we have مؤمنو مكة. Any adjectives will come at the end of the phrase. So now that we've said مؤمنو مكة, now you can bring the adjective sincere. And how will you say sincere in Arabic? Well, the word is mukhlis. And since we're referring to believers, it will have to be plural, mukhlisuna. And will it be definite or indefinite? Definite, because they are the believers of Makkah. It's definite. Because mu'minu is definite, the adjective will be definite. Al-mukhlisuna. Mu'minu Makkah or mu'minu Makkata al-mukhlisun. Nah. Al-mukhlisuna. The believers of Makkah who are sincere, or the sincere believers of Makkah. So do you see how the order will change? Why will what take kasra? Mukhlisuna, because mu'minu is marfu, mukhlisuna will also be marfu. Right? Whatever the i'rab of mu'minu is, the i'rab of mukhlisun will follow it, because it is an adjective describing mu'minun. Marfu' will usually be with a dhamma, but if it's a masculine sound plural, then it will be with a waw at the end. So muslimuna, mu'minuna, right? Alimuna. Let's continue. The sons of elders. Abna'u kibarin or abna'u shuyukhin. Abna'u shuyukhin. Now, one thing that you have to be careful of is that in English there will sometimes be a the on the mudaf, the first word. You have to see though if the mudaf ilayh is definite or indefinite, in order to see how the phrase will be translated. So if I say the sons of elders, if the elders themselves are not specific, are not definite, are not known, then of course the sons will also not be known. Because the sons will only be as known as the elders to whom they belong. Right? It's kind of impossible to know, to say this, the books of a man. Well, if I don't know who the man is, then I also have no idea what books they are. They belong to that man, but if the man is known, then the books will be known. If the man is not known, the books will not be known. So if I say the books of the man, I will say Kutubur Rajul. But if it's the books of a man, it would be Kutubur Rajulin. The books of a man. And both of them will be indefinite because I don't know who the man is, and therefore whichever books belong to him, they're equally unknown. Right? So don't be fooled by the word the. The usage of the word the in English does not correspond exactly to the usage or the sense of the Arabic phrase in all cases. Many times it will be the same way. If you see the in English, you will see an alif lam in Arabic. In some cases, you will use the Arabic alif lam, but you will not see the in translation. In some cases, you will use the in English, but you will not see an alif lam in the Arabic. Look at the meaning. Is the word definite or indefinite? That will be your best indication.
So if it says the Apostles' Book, it means the Book of Apostles, or
Yeah, the Book of Apostles. If it says
Kitab
Apostles.
then?
So if you want to say the book, the Apostles' Book, you will say Kitabur Rasuli. If you want to say the Apostles' Book, you will say Kitabur Rasuli. Yes, with alif lam, because it's the Apostles' Book. It's specific. Next one, sister, if you can give us a man's two children, yes. Walada rajulin. Right? Now, it says a man's two sons. A man's two children. Another way to say that is the two children of a man. The two children of a man, the two children is waladani, of a man is rajulin. So she had waladani, but then if it's mudaf, the noon cannot stay. So we drop the noon and we're left with walada rajulin. Is that clear? Next one. The men of the two cities. So how do you say the men? Rijal. Rijal. The men of the two cities. The two cities? Al-Madina. Al-Madina. This is a ta. Rijalul Madinatayn. The dual form for Medina is Madinatani or Madinatayn. In this case, we'll say Madinatayn because it is majroor. The masters of books. Arbabu Kutubin. And in some cases, the normal usage will be with alif lam. So, in this kind of a sentence, it would be more common to say Arbabul Kutubi. Well, in this case, the reason why you would more commonly say Arbabul Kutubi is that you're not saying the masters of certain unknown books. You're saying the masters of books in general. So you're referring to kind of collective books. If I want to say the masters of some indefinite books, some unknown books, I would say Arbabu Kutubin. Arbabu Kutubin means masters of some books or others. But in this case, when we say masters of books, what we are really saying is people who are, yes, literati, bookworms, people who are, they know books well. Right? And in that case, because it's referring to all books, we would use the alif lam. And the same thing could apply also to arbabu abna'u shuyukhin. Right? If you're referring to children of an older generation, you could say abna'u shuyukhi, children of the chiefs, of a collective chiefs. It depends on what the sense is that is being referred to. But that's not very important for us to be worried about. The next one would be the woman's two small daughters. Whose turn is it? Is it your turn? Would you like to give an answer? Sure, you can skip. Skip, okay. So the woman's two small daughters. Sure, go ahead. So let's rearrange the sentence first. Instead of saying the woman's two small daughters, yes, the two daughters of the woman. Two small daughters of the woman. Good. So we'll have binta, right? This was bintani, the two daughters. And then because it's going to be mudaf, we'll get rid of the noon. So we're left with binta. And then of the woman. So al-mar'ati, binta al-mar'ati. And then this is definite. So it would be as-saghira tani. Binta al-mar'ati, the two daughters of the woman, as-saghiratani, and those two daughters are small. Why is it saghiratani and not saghirataini? Yes, because saghiratani is as-saghiratani is an adjective for binta. And binta is marfu, as we can see with the alif. So saghiratani will also be marfu. Al-mar'ati is majroor because it is the mudaf ilayh. But as-saghiratani will agree with the mudaf because it is an adjective describing the two young daughters, the two daughters, not an adjective describing the woman. No, you cannot put an adjective between the mudaf and the mudaf ilayh. The mudaf and mudaf ilayh are inseparable and they're considered almost to be one word. So an adjective will come after the mudaf ilayh, even if the adjective is going back and describing the mudaf. All right, would you like to give us the next series? Read it in Arabic with the proper vocalization and then translate. So we have number one. Mulukul Madinatil Kibaru. Right? Kibar is a plural adjective. It's plural. And so it cannot be describing Al-Madina because Al-Madina is singular. Right, let me write that one down. We have Muluk Al-Madinati Al-Kibar. When I see this sentence or this phrase, I don't know if Al-Kibar is describing Medina, in which case I would say Al-Kibari, or if it's describing Muluk, in which case I will say Al-Kibaru. So I have to look and see if there's any indication. Obviously, whatever noun the adjective is describing, the adjective will agree with it in number, so singular, dual, plural. It will agree with it in masculine and feminine. And in this case, it's very clear for us that Al-Kibar is plural, Al-Madina is singular, so we know that Al-Kibar is not describing Al-Madina. But Muluk is plural, and so we know that Al-Kibar is describing Muluk, and so we'll say Al-Kibaru. Mulukul Madinatil Kibaru, the great kings of the city. Do not translate the words in order. Kings of the city great, or think it's kings of the great city. It's not just a matter of going in order or finding some way to arrange the words, but to look at the way that the words relate in the Arabic. Let's look at the next one. Yes. Madinatul Anbiya il-Idami. Madinatul Anbiya'i, Al-Anbiya'i, because it has Alif Lam, so it can take Kasra. And Al-Idami, because Idam is plural and it is an adjective describing Al-Anbiya. This is the last one that I will write down for now. Madinatul Anbiya il-Idami. Madinatul Anbiya il-Idami. This is an adjective describing Anbiya, and therefore it will take jar, because the mudaf ilayh also has jar. They are both going to be majrur. Next one, all the way in the back. Arbabul Madina T, because it's mudaf ilayh. So it's the masters or the lords of the city. Arbabul Madinati. What will Al-Kabira be describing? It's describing Al-Madina. So will it be Al-Kabiratu or will it be Al-Kabirati? Al-Kabirati. Because it's describing the Madina. Arbabul Madinati Al-Kabirati. It will agree with Al-Madina. Number 4. Lords of the big city. This is the answer to the previous question. Question? Okay. Number 4, back in the front with the brothers. Are you ready for it? Yes. Skip? Okay. Next. Skip? Alright. This is dual. Ibna al-Maliki as-Saghirani. And translate that? The two young sons of the king. Saghirane, as-Saghirane is describing Ibna. The next one. Good. Nisa'u rijalin mu'minina. And translate that.
The leading women of the people, of the man.
Well, rijal is plural.
Of man.
So, believing women of men. Is that possible? Can mu'minina be an adjective for nisa? Mu'minina is plural and nisa is plural. So is it possible that mu'minin is an adjective for nisa? No. Because mu'minin is masculine and nisa is feminine, means women. So mu'minin must be an adjective for rijal, and that is why it is majrur. Nisa'u rijalin mu'minina, the women of believing men. If I wanted to say the believing women of men, I would say نساء رجال مؤمنات. And that mu'minat would go back and describe nisa. Thank you. Next one. The translation for nisa rijal mu'minina, the women of believing men. Next one. Buyutu rijal madinati. Translation? Houses of the men of the city. And that's very good that you put the definite article in all of those cases, because buyut belongs to rijal, rijal belong to al-Madina, al-Madina is definite, so all of the nouns are definite. The houses of the men of the city. Next one. Okay, this one I will also write down. لِمُؤْمِنِي الْأَرْضِ, right? Or when we shorten it, when we say it in Arabic, we will say لِمُؤْمِنِي الْأَرْضِ, because the ya has sukoon, the lam has sukoon, so the ya will drop out in pronunciation. We'll say لِمُؤْمِنِي الْأَرْضِ, but it really is لِمُؤْمِنِي الْأَرْضِ, right? And that means for the believers, plural, mu'minina, of the earth. So you translated mu'minina as plural, right? Mu'mini as being short for mu'minina, and that's correct. Is there another reading that you can also do? You can also make it dual. لِمُؤْمِنَي الْأَرْضِ, for the two believers of the earth. And then, because it will be mu'minayn, so it will be mu'minay, and then the ya will need to take a kasra in order to make it pronounceable. We can't say لِمُؤْمِنَي الْأَرْضِ. So you will say لِمُؤْمِنَي. This kasra should be on the meme. Me, na, yil ar. That does not belong there. That's probably not what was intended. The intention was probably to say, as Sister said, لِمُؤْمِنِي الْأَرْضِ, for the believers of the earth. But I just wanted to point out that when you see a phrase like this, it could be dual, because the dual also has a ya ending, and the noon will drop out. So it could be لِمُؤْمِنَيِ الْأَرْضِ, the two believers of the earth, or it could be لِمُؤْمِنِي الْأَرْضِ, لِمُؤْمِنِي الْأَرْضِ, and that will be plural. Okay, sister. Number 8. Yes. لِشَيْخَيْ, right? That was لِشَيْخَيْنِ, dual. But because it's mudaf, شَيْخَيْنِ, the noon will drop and it will become لِشَيْخَيْ مَكَّةَ, for the two sheikhs of Makkah, al-kabirayn, the two sheikhs who are big, so the two big sheikhs of Makkah. Yes, kabirayn, and also shaykhain tells us that it is dual, because the plural of sheikh is not shaykhun. The plural of sheikh is shuyukh or ashyakh. But we don't have shaykhun and shaykhin. So this one will definitely be dual. Next one. Nisa'ul anbiya'i al-mu'minatu. Thank you. Al-mu'minatu cannot be an adjective for anbiya, because anbiya is a masculine plural and al-mu'minat is a feminine plural. So mu'minat is going to be an adjective describing nisa. Nisa'ul anbiya'i al-mu'minatu. Translation? The believing women or wives of the Prophet. Could be either one. Of the prophets. Next one. Al-idham. لِرُسُلِ اللَّهِ الْعِظَامِ. Idham is an adjective describing rusul. So how will you translate that? For the great messengers of God. Idham describes rusul. Right? Because idham is plural and rusul is plural. Who wants to give us the next one? Are you ready? Go for it. Read it. Number 11. Go ahead. No, number 11. Ibadullahil mukhlisun. Right? It will be Ibadullahi, and you're correct that Allahi will be majroor. Al-mukhlisun is an adjective describing ibad, because they're both plural. So it's al-mukhlisun. And how will we translate that? Servants. Yes, the sincere servants of God. Thank you. Next one. Shuyukhul Madinatil Kibaru. Kibar being plural will be describing shuyukh. And so the translation will be, yes, the great elders, for example, of the city, or the old chiefs of the city. Kibar can mean great, or old, or big. So the great chiefs of the city. Next one, number 13. Shuyukhul Madinatil Kabirati. Translation? The elders of the large city. The Kabira describes Medina. Next one, sisters. Yes, Hada'iq is mudaf. And because it is mudaf, it will take a kasra. It's غير منصرف. But because it's mudaf, it will take a kasra. So we will say في حدائق بيوت الرجال. And the translation? In the gardens of the houses of the men. Next one. في حديقة بيت المرأة. So حديقة will be مضاف, بيت is مضاف إليه, and then بيت is مضاف and المرأة is مضاف إليه. And translation will be the house of the woman. So in the garden of the house of the woman, or in the woman's house's garden. Next one. So you will say في حديقتي بيتي المرأتين. In حديقتي, it will stay, حديقتين will be shortened to حديقتي. The word بيتي, though, you will add a kasra to the ya, so you can connect it to المرأتين. في حديقتي بيتي المرأتين. And the translation? In the two gardens of the two homes of the two women. That is the kind of phrase that you will rarely see in Arabic, but That is how you would translate it if you did see it. Next one. وَلَدَا الْمَرْأَةِ. And when you read that in normal Arabic, you will shorten it as you did to وَلَدَا الْمَرْأَةِ. But it is وَلَدَا الْمَرْأَةِ, the two sons of the woman. Next one. أولاد المرأة الصغار. Ru. Because sigar is plural and it is an adjective describing أولاد, the translation will be sigaru, the young sons or the young children of the woman. And because we are a little bit short in time, we'll just finish off and give everybody one turn, and then I will read the rest of the answers. So if we can go quickly for the next one, read the sentence and then translate. Inna Allaha. Remember, after inna, the subject of the sentence will be mansub, inna Allaha, and the predicate of the sentence, which will be known as khabar, that will be marfu'. So, inna Allaha rabbus samawati wal ard. Rabbus samawati is mudaf and mudaf ilayh. Rabbus samawati wal ardi. Ard is yes, it's connected to the mudaf ilayh. So it's samawati wal ardi, Lord of the heavens and the earth. If you take a look up on the board here, the word sama, the plural is samawat. In the Quran, that first alif is not written, so you may see it like that. But it will be samawati. The pronunciation is samawati, and the standard way of writing it is like this. If you write it this way, it's okay. That's the way that it's written in the Quran. But make sure that you know that the word is sama, plural samawati. Next one. Ibadil, because it's min. So wajada Musa abdan min ibadillahil mukhlisina. Translation? Wajada means he found. And who is the subject? Musa. A slave or a servant. Abdan. That's a simple sentence. Wajada Musa abdan. Musa found a servant. Right? And normally abd means slave, but when we're speaking of God, then we can say a slave of God, but normally we say a servant of God. And so servant is the better translation. Musa found a servant min ibadillahi al-mukhlisin, from or among among the sincere servants of God. Right? Mukhlisin is an adjective describing ibad. Next one. Inna lil abdi al mu'mini khayran. Why is it khayran? Because inna, the subject of inna, will be mansub. And in this case, the subject of inna is khayran. And the predicate is lil abdi al mu'mini. Right? So it's saying inna khayran lil abdi al mu'mini. That's the meaning. And the translation? Yes, verily a good result or good things or khair, it belongs to the believing servant. Right? So we're saying something about good. We're saying that goodness, we're telling you something about goodness. Goodness is the subject. Khairan is the subject. And what are we telling you about goodness? That it is the property of the believing servant. verily, for the believing servant, there is goodness, that's okay as well. But the point is that khayran is the subject of the sentence, and lil abd al mu'mini is the predicate. Next sentence. خلق الله, Allah is the subject. خلق الله السماوات والأرض. خلق الله, Allah is the fa'il, the subject. It will be marfu'. And then السماوات is the direct object, which will be mansub. But because السماوات is a feminine plural, it cannot take a fatha. So when it is mansub, it will take a kasra. السماوات. Al-ard, though, is a regular noun and it can take a fatha. So we will say as-samawati wal-arda, because they're both mansub. The heavens are being created, it's the direct object. The earth is also being created, it's the direct object. And the completion of the sentence, وَفِي ذَلِكَ آيَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Translation? And in that is a sign for the believers. And in that is a sign for the believers. وَفِي ذَلِكَ, and in that, آيَةٌ, a sign, لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, for the believers. The remaining sentences I will read and translate. Please follow along. إِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ عِبَادُ اللَّهِ. Al-Mu'mineen is the subject, that's why it's mansub, Mu'mineen. And Ibadullah is the predicate, that's why Ibadu is marfu'. Verily, the believers are the servants of God. ذَلِكَ, subject. Kitabun kabirun, predicate. Kitabun kabirun is marfu' because it's the predicate. لِعَبْدَيْنِ min ibadillahi. That is a big book belonging to or of two servants among the servants of God, or from the servants of God. Ibad is the plural of abd. للمرأة بنتان كبيرتان وابن, and that will be shortened to wabnun صغيرun. Wabnun صغيرun. Yes, this lil mar'ati, remember, that's the predicate that's come in the front. The khabar has come in the front. The mubtada, the subject, is afterwards. What we're saying is two old daughters or two big daughters, lil mar'ati, belong to the woman. So the subject is bintani kabiratani. And what we're telling you about those two big daughters is they are lil mar'ati, they belong to the woman. Wabnun saghirun is also joined to the subject. So two big daughters and a small son, lil mar'ati, are for the woman. And what we'll normally translate that sentence as is the woman has two big daughters and a young son. It's the more fluid translation. Next sentence. Musa wa Muhammadun isna nabiyayni mudaf mudaf ilayh. Isna nabiyayni mukhlisayni lillahi. How do I know that it's mukhlisayni and not mukhlisina? Yes, because we're talking about two prophets, Musa and Muhammad, and it says Isma Nabiyayni. So it's the two names of two prophets. Mukhlisayni is an adjective describing Nabiyayni. Right? So Musa and Muhammad are not the two names of Nabiyina in the plural, they're the two names of Nabiyayni in the dual. The two names of two prophets, Mukhlisayni, who are sincere, lillahi. The plural of ism is asma. But ismaini or isma here is dual. Are two names of sincere prophets? No, because they're the two names of two sincere prophets. So don't think that in English we say two names of sincere prophets, that's plural. In Arabic, prophets is either dual if it's referring to two, or it's plural if it's referring to three or more. If you want to say two from many, then you would say Isma nabiyayni min al-anbiya il-mukhlisina. But in this case, it's not two prophets of many prophets. It's saying the two names of two prophets who are sincere. The dual is translated into English as plural because in English two or more is plural. But in Arabic, two is dual and three or more is plural. So translated as Isma nabiyayni mukhlisayni lillah. Next sentence. كان العبد مخلصا لرب البيت. كان العبد. Abd is the subject of the sentence, the ism of kana, and therefore it is marfu'. But remember, kana takes a predicate or a khabar that is mansub. So كان العبد مخلصا. The predicate with kana will be mansub. If you don't remember that from our previous discussion, then make a note. Kana will have a subject that will be marfu. Kana al-abdu mukhlisan li rabbil bayt. The servant was sincere to the Lord of the house. Devoted would be fine as well. Lil anbiya'i Nisa'un mu'minatun wa awladun mu'minuna. The prophets have, or for the prophets are, believing wives and believing children. And the sentences that we want to translate into Arabic, I will do that also. The man is devoted to God. So I will write that. الرجل مخلص لله, the Lord of heaven and earth. رب السماوات والأرض. You can say رب السماء as well, but normally in Arabic you say رب السماوات والأرض. لله will be majroor, so رب السماوات والأرض will then become رب السماوات والأرض, because Rabb is describing Allah. الرجل مخلص لله رب السماوات والأرض. Why is it Rabbi? Because Allah is majroor. No, because it's رب السماوات والأرض is describing Allah. And so the best way to read it is رب السماوات والأرض. There are other possibilities, but that's beyond the scope of the class right now. Samawati is plural. Heavens will literally be as-sama'i, but it's common in Arabic to say as-samawati. So, Lord of the heavens and the earth is the better way to say it in Arabic. That was in the books of the apostles. Was, we'll start with the verb kana. The subject is that, ذَلِكَ. In the books of the apostles, fi kutub bir rusuli. You can say al-anbiya'i as well. The man's two children were in the king's garden. we'll start with the verb. Kana, the man's two children, wala da ar-rajuli, in the king's garden, fi hadiqati al-maliki, fi hadiqatil maliki. Kana stays singular. The verb will stay singular even though the subject is dual, and we'll talk about why that is the case later. But kana walada ar-rajuli, the two children of the man were fi hadiqatil malik, in the garden of the king. The large spring, so that's al-ain al-kabiratu, al-ainul kabiratu, that's the subject and it's marfu, is near the city gardens. Qaribatun, that's the predicate now, and it's also marfu. Qaribatun min, the city gardens will be the gardens of the city, right? So min hadaiq al-madinati, min hadaiq al-madinati, right? A prophet's book is a good thing for the believers. Kitabu Nabiyyin or Rasulin khayrun للمؤمنين. كتاب نبي للمؤمنين خير. That sentence is not grammatically incorrect, but it will be a little bit odd. Normally the subject will come before the predicate. So Kitabu Nabiyyin is the subject, Khayrun lil Mu'minina is the predicate, and the order will stay subject first, predicate second. Khayrun, better, lil Mu'minina, for the believers, or good for the believers. So that's the normal order that you will use. This sentence is a little bit odd in Arabic, but you can say Inna kitaba nabiyyin, or you can say Kitabu Nabiyyin khayrun lil mu'minina. Khayr in Arabic also means better. And so this sentence will seem to be Kitabu Nabiyyin khayrun lil mu'minina, the book of a prophet is better for the believers. In Arabic, khayr can mean both good and better. But the sentence is correct, even if it's a little bit of an odd sentence. The cities of kings, right? Mudunul Muluki, right? And here we will say Mudunul Muluki because we're saying the cities of kings as a group. So it's going to be treated as definite. Are here on earth. Huna alal ardi. And you'll say on the earth, right? And God's paradise is in heaven. وَجَنَّةُ اللَّهِ فِي السَّمَاءِ or فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ. In this case, either one would be correct. Al-ard will mean the earth. Al-ard will mean the earth. Ard by itself is indefinite. It's definite because it's referring to the earth. There are times when in English you will not use the definite article, but in Arabic you will. And one of those examples is the word earth. But if we say on earth, what we mean is this earth. So it's a definite noun, even though in English we don't say the earth necessarily. Right, we are a little bit behind time. Let's see if we can get through lesson number 5 today. Lesson number 5 is about adjective and noun agreement. This is an issue that is, it requires your full attention. And, Friday evening at 9 o'clock is when all of us are at our peak attentiveness and wakefulness. So it works out very well, inshallah. It's not as complicated as it looks. So take a deep breath. We're going to go through a lot of detail. And inshallah, when you get home, then you'll review it once, twice, 3 times. And pretty soon it will seem like second nature. It's really, if you think about it, these rules, they do have a logic to them. And the key is to kind of see and get a feel for that logic. And then practice is what will make it second nature. So let's read through and see how adjectives agree. There is a lot of detail here, but don't worry about all of the detail at once. Soak in the information, and then please do review these notes and all of the examples as many times as you possibly can in the next week. It will make life easier for you in the future. So forget the chart at the top. That's just a summary. Come down where it says A. If you have a singular noun, the adjective for that noun will agree. So if I have the word rajulun, and I want to describe it with the adjective Rashid, I will say rajulun Rashidun. Right? This is masculine singular. Rashidun is masculine singular. And let me just then go to the feminine singular so you can see how that changes. If I want to say imra'a, then I will say imra'atun, say rashidatun. So this adjective will stay singular, but if the word is feminine, the adjective will be feminine. And I'll add a rashidatun. Rashidatun. Imra'atun, rashidatun. If it's imra'atan, it will be rashidatan. If it's imra'atin, it will be rashidatin. The adjective will agree. The same thing will be here with rajul. It will be rajulun rashidun, rajulan rashidan, rajulin rashidin. There will be an agreement. So we can look at the examples here. Alaysa minkum rajulun rashidun. Is there not among you rajulun rashidun, an upright man? In tattabi'una illa rajulan mashuran. You are following rajulan mashuran, a man bewitched or possessed. Mashur is from sihr, magic. Rajulan mashuran, a man who is succumbed to magic. Mashuran, if you want to translate it as one word, possessed. A man possessed or bewitched. Mansub. Don't worry about the details of the grammar. That's just an example from the Quran. Rajulan, we see it's mansub. Don't worry about why. Mashuran will also be mansub. Both of them will be masculine singular. وَآتَيْنَا مُوسَى سُلْطَانًا. That's masculine singular. مُبِينًا. Masculine singular. The translation is Atayna, we gave Musa Sultanan Mubinan, clear authority. Sultan is authority, Mubinan is clear. The same thing applies to a feminine singular noun. The adjective will be feminine. Wamra'atan mu'minatan, a believing woman. You can look at the remaining verse if you want and refer to the Quran. The key that we're looking at though is وَامْرَأَتًا مُؤْمِنَةً. وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَ نَفَقَةً صَغِيرَةً. Right? يُنْفِقُونَ is spend. So they do not spend nafaqatan, an expense, saghiratan, that is small expense. Nafaqa is feminine singular, saghiratan is feminine singular. Kabiratan is also another adjective, it's also feminine singular. Nafaqatan is mansoob, saghiratan is mansoob. If you have a dual noun, the adjective will be dual, and it will agree in masculine and feminine as well. So that's also easy. We'll just go over a couple of examples. Right? Rajulani mu'minani. Right? If it becomes mansoob or majroor, rajulaini, what will the adjective be? Mu'minaini, if we're using mu'min. Right? Rajulaini mu'minaini. If it's feminine, imra'atani, with the mu'min, what will the adjective be? Mu'minatani. If it's mansoob or majroor, imra'ataini, mu'minataini. So the dual will also agree. Rajulani mukhlisani, rajulaini mukhlisaini. And if it's feminine, imra'atani mukhlisatani, imra'ataini mukhlisataini. So that part is straightforward and very clear. And that's boring. And so we want to move on to the fun part. And the fun is with plurals. And so I will simplify the notes a little bit. You can go back and look at the notes. If there is a masculine plural noun that refers to people, right? 3 or more men, then the adjective will also be masculine plural. It will agree. Right? So if I say shuyukhun, that's the plural of shaykh, the adjective will be plural. Shuyukhun kibarun. Plural. Adjective will also be plural. If I want to say mu'minuna, and I want to describe it with the same adjective, I will say mu'minuna kibarun. Mu'minun is masculine plural. It refers to people. The adjective will also be plural. If you look at the next example that we have in the notes, it's a verse of Quran, verse 105 of Surah 21. أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. And I'm just going to take out that phrase, عِبَادِي الصَّالِحُونَ, because we're not concerned with the grammar of the whole verse. عِبَادِي الصَّالِحُونَ. عِبَادِي means servants of mine. That ya is a pronoun. Ibad means servants. Ya means me. Ibadi means servants of me, or my servants. Now, if I say my servants, is that definite or indefinite? It's definite because they're servants that belong to me. It's definite. So that word ibadi doesn't have alif lam, but it's mudaf. And so it's definite. And the adjective that comes will be definite. Ibad is plural, servants of mine. As-salihun will be definite and plural. Ibadi as-salihun. Noble servants or righteous servants of mine. Ibad is mudaf, ya is mudaf ilayh.
But it's got a kasra.
Servants of mine. Yes, to make it easier to pronounce, we can say ibadi as-salihun.
Even though it's really not true.
well, it's ibadi.
Because salihun is
Salihun is marfu. The word ibad is marfu. You just can't tell it's marfu because the ya requires the dal to have a kasra.
right. So ibad is still marfu.
It's still marfu.
That's right.
Yes, it is
But
marfu.
it has to take a kasra.
Yeah. Ibadi will always be ibadi. Because when you have a kasra, you can't have any other vowel before it. You can't say ibadui or ibadai. It will always be ibadi.
When
What-
the ya is referring to me.
When the when there is a ya that means mine. Right? So as-salihun is marfu because that word ibad is actually marfu. But that's not the point right now. The point right now is that ibad is plural and as-salihun will be plural. Right? I can also say al-ibadu as-salihuna. Right? That ibad is plural, salihuna is plural. Or to use another example, ibadun mukramuna. Mukramuna. Ibadun mukramuna. Ibadun is marfu, mukramuna is marfu. You can see it with the alif, with the waw. So if the noun is masculine plural and it refers to people, the adjective will also be plural. There are certain details in the notes. If we can use a broken plural, we'll use a broken plural adjective. If there is no broken plural adjective, then we'll use the masculine sound plural like as-salihuna. That's a detail that you don't need to worry about. Another example is if the noun does not have a broken plural, then we will say, for example, mu'minuna salihuna, or mu'minina what? Salihina. That will also agree. Anytime we have a plural mu'minun, mu'minin, ibad, shuyukh, that's referring to a masculine plural and it's referring to people, the adjective will also be in the plural. The same thing applies to feminine plural. If a feminine plural refers to people, the adjective will be feminine plural, right? And when I say adjective, it might be an adjective or it might be a predicate. Right? A predicate is a type of adjective. Right? The difference is if I say a nice woman or if I say the woman is nice. In both cases, I'm describing the woman, right? A nice woman is an adjective. The woman is nice is a predicate. Nice is a predicate. But in both cases, nice is describing the woman. In both cases, there will be agreement. So we have an example here, as-salihatu qanitatun. Right? This is not an adjective, but it is a predicate. As-salihatu mubtada, qanitatun khabar. Right? The righteous women are qanitatun, are obedient and prayerful. Hafidhatun, protective.
So it agrees in the plural.
Yes, so salihat refers to feminine plural. Qanitatun will also be feminine plural. Well, if it's a sifa, if it's an adjective, then there will be agreement with the definite as well. But here it's a predicate. So as-salihatu qanitatun. In the next verse, take out or underline these words. Azwajan, muslimatin. this is actually an adjective. Right? If you want to put that khayran min kunna in parentheses, that's something extra that's in the middle there. Azwajan muslimatin. Muslimatin is an adjective describing azwajan. Question: how can it be an adjective when it doesn't seem to agree? This is azwajan, this is muslimatin. Muslimatin is also mansub. It's just that it's a feminine plural and it cannot take a fatha. It takes a kasra, but it's not majroor. It's mansub. You will never say muslimatan. When it's mansub, it will take a kasra. Azwajan muslimatin. They are in agreement. Right? Because this is mansub, this is mansub. However, azwajan will show its mansub with a fatha. Muslimatin will show its mansub with a kasra. But it is mansub.
So in this long chain, the last one is also
Yes. So now let's look at the other adjectives here. Muslimatin, mu'minatin is also an adjective. Qanitatin, ta'ibatin, abidatin, sa'ihatin, thayyibatin, wa abkaran. Why wa abkaran? Well, abkaran is a broken plural, and it can take a fatha. But all of them, muslimat, mu'minat, qanitat, ta'ibat, abidat, sa'ihat, thayyibat, and abkaran, all of them are mansub. Some of them are mansub and they take a kasra, some of them are mansub and they take a fatha. But they are all mansub. And so if you want to simplify it, just underline azwajan and underline muslimatin. Azwaj is the plural of zoj. And as I explained earlier, zoj in classical Arabic in the Quran can refer to a husband or a wife, because it's a mate, a spouse. A spouse is either a husband or a wife. Right? The word zoj in Arabic could be referring to a man or to a woman. Azwajan could mean husbands, but here it's referring to wives. And so the adjectives will be feminine plural. Azwajan here is referring to wives of the Prophet. So feminine plural, right? It's referring to people. The adjective will be plural. Azwajan, muslimatin, mu'minatin, and so on. Now, if that's clear, sometimes there is a plural that refers not to people but to objects. And when it comes to objects, then they are not treated the same way as people. In this case, if the plural is with alif and ta, you can bring an adjective with alif and ta as well. So, in the Quran, we have jannatin ma'rushatin. Jannat is the plural of jannah. Ma'rushat, spread out, arrayed, is a feminine plural. Jannat is not referring to people, but because it has the alif ta, it's common in the Quran to also bring the adjective with an alif ta. But you don't need to. You can say ma'rusha. In this case, it will be with a fatha, because if it's singular, it can take a fatha. So you can say jannatin ma'rushatin, or you can say jannatin ma'rushatan if it's mansub. You can bring the singular adjective if you want. In the Quran, it will usually be plural. Right? You'll see frequently in the Quran ayatun bayyinatun or ayatin bayyinatin. Well, jannat will take a kasra, whether it's mansub or majrur. If it's mansub, and you use the singular adjective, you will say ma'rushatan. If jannat is majroor, then you will say ma'rushatin. So that depends on what the i'rab is.
And that's in modern Arabic.
In modern Arabic, you will generally use a singular adjective, but in the Quran specifically, you will often see if the noun has a alif ta ending, even if it's not referring to people, you will often see an alif ta ending. In classical Arabic, after the Quran, it's generally without the plural. So you will often see jannat ma'rusha. Right? The other example in the Quran, of course, is ayat. It will be feminine but singular. So for example, the word jannatun kabiratun. Jannatun kabiratun. This is normally how you will see it in Arabic today. Jannatun kabiratun. In the Quran, you will often see, for example, kabirat. Both are correct in Arabic. No. We'll talk about forms of plurals in more detail in the future. So this is if the plural is referring to non-human beings, but it has alif ta. In most cases, though, a plural that is referring to non-human beings will not have alif ta. It will be a broken plural. In the case of a broken plural, usually the adjective is feminine singular, and that's an important point. Broken plurals in Arabic are often treated as feminine singular. If you need to write that, then broken plurals are treated as feminine singular. That's when they're not referring to people. If it's referring to people, like shuyukh, we've already talked about it. But if it's not referring to people, it will be treated as a feminine singular. Examples that we have are idhaman. Idham is the plural of adhm. It means bone. Idhaman nakhiratan. Old decomposed bones. Ayyaman. I'm just mentioning the examples that are relevant to what we're talking about out of the verses that are mentioned in the notes. Ayyaman ma'dudatan. Ayyaman ma'dudatan. So ayyam is a broken plural, but it's treated as a feminine singular. The adjective is ma'dudatan. With a broken plural, the most common thing is to treat it as a feminine singular, even in the Quran. But it is correct to treat it as a plural noun. You can say ayyam nahisat. Ayyamin nahisat. Nahis means what's the opposite of something that has good luck? Ill-omened, right? So the adjective for bad luck. So ill-omened, right? Is there a better word than that? Unlucky. All right. So it's a more powerful word than unlucky, but ayyamin nahisatin, unlucky days, right? Ill-omened days, accursed days, for example, if you want to say something. So ayyam is plural. You can say nahisa, feminine singular, or you can say nahisat, ayyaman, you can say ma'dudatan, you can also say ma'dudat with alif ta. But the more common form is feminine singular. So we went through those notes. When you review it, I promise you it'll be a lot easier than it was right now. When you review it the second time, it will be easier than the first time. And when you review it for the fifth time, it will be easier than the fourth time. That's my promise to you. Please do review it that number of times, and then it'll become second nature for you. Let's also look at the pronouns, because this is something that you need to memorize. And the quicker you can memorize it, the easier it will be to memorize everything else that we're going to be memorizing in the future. In Arabic, there are 14 forms of the verb. There are 14 forms of the pronouns. Right? It's a little bit of a step up from English, because in English we have a whole total of 2 forms. Right? Yeah. I shop, he shops. They shop. So it's either shop or shops. We have 2 forms. Either shop or shops. In the past tense, it's even easier. We have a total of 1 form. Shopped. I shopped, you shopped, he shopped, they shopped, we shopped, y'all shopped. Right? There's only 1 form. In Arabic, though, we have 14 forms. And so we have to memorize them. And that's something that you will be able to do. There is a joke told that in Iran, once the tyrannical Shah wanted to have religious students be compelled to serve in the military. And so a recruiter came to find beginning religious students, take them to the military, kind of secularize them. And so he heard a student practicing his Arabic by memorizing those 14 forms of one of the difficult words in Arabic, which is the command form for the word protect. And he was repeating it time and time again to memorize it, and as the recruiter came and saw that the person was saying these weird spells, he thought that he was either putting a spell on people or that he was crazy. And he said that we don't want these people in the army, they're going to make us go from tragedy to tragedy, and so the order was rescinded. The story is not true, but there are certain benefits that can come from memorizing these charts. The way you will memorize it is you will start from the upper right, you will go across to the left and then down. So take a look at this chart of pronouns. Huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. Right? The top row is the third person masculine. Huwa is he, huma is those 2 men, hum is all of those men. The next row down is third person feminine. Hiya is she, huma is those 2 women, hunna is all of those women. The next row down is second person masculine. Anta is you, singular, antuma is the 2 of you men, antum is all of you men. The next row down is feminine, second person. Anti is you to 1 woman, antuma is you 2 women, and antunna is all of you women. The next row down is first person, and there is only a singular and a plural. That plural refers to both dual and plural. So in the chart, it says plural, but that plural includes the dual. Ana, I, nahnu is either the 2 of us or all of us. It's called plural, but it includes the dual. And so next week, I want to have all of us have that chart memorized and be able to read it. Huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. And know what they refer to. There is an order and a logic to it, and once you memorize it, then you will be able to figure out what each one refers to. We will begin next week by looking at some of the uses for these pronouns.